Okay, so today's guest is Professor Gabriel Souza out of Souza Grappling Co. Or is it company? Souza
Yes.
Grappling Souza
Yeah. Bumble.
Grappling Company out of Carefree, Arizona. So I'm super excited because like I was telling you, I feel like you're like a little hidden gem. You just opened up this school not too long ago, so excited to let people know a little bit more about you and the school. All right. So tell us a little bit about you, Gabriel. So how did you get into jujitsu?
Okay, first, thank you for having me. It's an honor to talk to you today. And I started Jiu-Jitsu in 2008. I was just a little boy. I was 9 years old. And we're gonna talk about competitions, and it's kind of like was the competition that got me into Jiu-Jitsu, I think. Because once I started training, I remember I had one of the kids on my gym that he would compete a lot. And he just got back on that same week that I started training, and then he was showing his medal, and I was all excited. I was like, "Oh, that's cool! I want to do that."
Yeah.
So after 3 months, I was training. I did my first competition. It was the FBJJ, the São Paulo Federation. That's kind of like under IBJJF too.
Yeah.
So I went to compete. Uh, I followed the kids way bigger than me. My first two tournaments, my mom didn't know about weights, and I was like a little chubby little boy. That's like one of the reasons that I started training. And she saw me, she saw halfway, I was like, I think she's halfway. So she didn't know that I had weight divisions. So she put me on the halfway. So like my
Yeah.
first two tournaments, I fought guys really big. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun. And then so like my first one, I won 4 fights and I lost on the finals. And then I was like, oh wow, so that's really cool. I might be good at it. So if I train another 3 months, I might get first place. So I trained another
Yeah.
3 months and I went to the second tournament again on the heavyweight division. And then I got first place. And then I remember when I was getting the medal, the guy that was giving me the medal, he told me, he was like, damn, you're a little boy for this division, what's up with that? And I was like, I don't know. I thought that was division. And then my mom started asking, and then he told my mom like the weights and how it
Yeah.
was. So after that, on the follow tournaments, I started fighting with the kids on my way, and was way easier for sure.
Okay then.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so
Awesome.
I compete straight for like 4 or 5 years on that same division, and like I never lost. So, like I would win every single tournament, or like on the on that São Paulo area. I
Yeah.
was just more on that area, and then when I was 14, I did my first Brazilian nationals, and I remember I got third place, and then that's when I met Rodrigo Cavaca. That was like my second professor. So I met him over there. I went to one of his seminars, and then I had one a good friend of mine on my gym that we used to compete a lot. And then he told me, he's like, bro, let's move to train with Cavaca, which was 4 hours away from my city. So we got all excited, and Cavaca told us, like, hey, if you guys want to come train here with me, you guys more than welcome. You guys can come. So after like 6 months or so, we moved. We moved to Santos. It was like 4 hours away. I was 15 years old. My best friend was 16, and then we had another guy that he was 28. So he was kind of like the adult of the house.
Yeah.
And I would train. I would go to school in the morning and train all day. So that was my life for the next 3 years, 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And then
Awesome.
yeah, so after that I just started competing. I did my first words in 2013. I came to the US for the first time, and then I got third place on my division in an open class. And that's kind of like how opened the doors for me on jiu-jitsu, I feel like, because I
Yeah.
go back to Brazil and I saw how jiu-jitsu was big in the
Right.
US, because I thought it was more like a Brazilian thing. I was kind of like a kid. The internet wasn't how it is today, how the kids
Right.
like can see everybody compete all over around the world. So I wouldn't see that. I didn't even have the phone, so I didn't know. So when I saw that on the US, it kind of like opened my mind. So I started like competing more, like getting even more into jiu-jitsu, start competing more at BJJF,
Yeah.
CBJJF, and start like winning some major tournaments. And that's when 2016 I moved to the US. I got invited. I won like BJJ Pro or something in Brazil, and I got second on the nationals. And then one of my friends invited me to move to the US to teach and train, and
Yeah.
that's when I moved, and I'm here to today.
Super cool. So We talked a little bit about this before because
Yeah,
we've talked before, but you said that you wanted to be an MMA uh in
yeah,
MMA, like a
yeah,
pro.
yeah. So
So,
that was like the beginning. So I would say before I started training, I used to love Bruce Lee and Jack Chan. So like
yeah.
I was really into those movies. Like my mom would get me all the movies I would watch. So I was really into like punching and striking. So when my mom and my dad split up, we moved to a new city, and then next to my mom's work was a jiu-jitsu academy. And then my mom saw them with the kimono, so she was like, "Hey, we have a Bruce Lee gym here. That's karate, blah blah."
Uh,
Jiu-jitsu wasn't that famous in 2008, so she didn't
yeah.
know what I was about. And I was all excited. So when I got there to the gym, I saw that was like jiu-jitsu didn't have no punches. And I was like, I told my professor, I was like, I want to throw punches, like I don't want to do this. And my professor was like, hey, do jiu-jitsu first. If you want to do MMA or you want to throw punches, you can
Right.
do in the future. And
Yeah.
my professor was like a well-known MMA fighter back in Brazil. He used to do the luta livre, like
Yeah.
vale tudo. It's kind of like back in the day when you could do like soccer kicks and stab
Yeah.
the other person. So my professor would do that. So I would go to all his tournaments and watch, and like I was fascinated. That's all that I want to do it. But my
Right.
professor saw that I was like winning some major tournaments, so he told me, bro, just stay doing jiu-jitsu for now. When you older, when you're 25, 26, you start focusing on MMA again. And I was like, all right, I was fine with that. But I still was really into MMA. So when I was 16, about to turn 17, I did my first MMA fight in Brazil, and I
Nice.
won. And then right after that, that's when I moved to the US. So I kind of like stopped a little bit and just focus on
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu. And I was living in Connecticut at the time. And then I moved to Utah, and I was training with a really good gym, Eddie Mori. Um, his student is Amy. She's a great. She won ADCC on the past ADCC. She's good. So we should train with them. And he had a boxing coach over there, Ernie. He was amazing, and he went to the Olympics with Muhammad Ali. So he was an older man, but
Yeah.
he knew a lot. So
Yeah.
like I started learning boxing with them, and then I got into another MMA fight over there in Utah, training for only 3 months. I
Yeah.
won, and then kind of like spark on me again. When I won that fight again, I was like, I wish I could be doing this right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but life happens. I was a brown belt at the time. I started competing. I won BJJ Pro, New York BJJ Pro, and then I got invited to teach a seminar in Tucson, Arizona. That's when I went to Tucson. I taught a seminar there, one gym over there, and they really liked the way I teach, and they invited me. They was like, "Hey, you want to be the head coach over here? We need a coach right now. We don't have a black belt. We don't have a brown belt." And then I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." I was
Yeah.
just living on the cold, so moved to the heat a little bit. I love the heat. I was teaching Tucson for almost 5 years, and then when I turned 25. I was like, it's the time. I'm gonna be an
Yeah.
MMA fighter now. So I got all my things. I moved to Vegas to train with one of my good friends, Renato Canuto. So I moved to Vegas. I started training with him.
Man, you like lived all over the place.
Yeah, I've been all over the place. I,
Yeah.
I I feel like many Brazilians like are the same way. Or you
Right.
go to one place and stay on that city, or you move around till you find
Trying
somewhere.
to find like where the right fit is, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
the opportunity is.
Yeah, exactly. And
Cool.
that's how it happened to me. And then I moved to Vegas, was training. I had my wife with me, Priscilla. She was gonna move to Vegas with me. She sold her house. She was about to move to Vegas, and then we found news that she was pregnant. So I was gonna have my first daughter, and it
Oh,
kind of like changed my head. I was like, okay. So I should have this dream, but what am I gonna do about my life? I need to provide
yeah.
for my daughter. So it kind of changed my head a lot. And my good friend here in Phoenix, Michael from Checkmate Phoenix, Michael and Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
We were good friends for a while, and he was like, "Bro, move to Phoenix. I can help you here. I have two little daughters. It would be good for your daughter to grow up with other kids, and um, I know Henry Cejudo, so I can try to get you to train a fire ready." And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I came to Phoenix just for like a weekend, and then I trained with the guys at fire ready. I trained with Cejudo, and they really liked me. So they were like, hey, if you want to come train with us, just get your things in Vegas and move here. I was like, okay. So I went back to Vegas and got everything and moved to
Oh
Phoenix.
my
Yeah.
God.
So it was kind of like a roller coaster, you know what I mean? So I thought I was going somewhere. I came back, and
Yeah.
now I have my own gym in Phoenix. So
Yeah, so
everything,
now you're like growing roots here, right? Like this
yeah,
is it, hopefully.
yeah, yeah. No, I love here. I love here. I love my students. You know, I start
Yeah.
teaching. So I started teaching for Michael, and then I started teaching on Carefree area. I had a couple students, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
like my daughter's getting, growing, becoming like her own little girl. And then
Yeah.
I really like the area. For Carefree, it's amazing. I know you live around this area. You
Yeah.
know how good it
Yeah.
is. Like
So
when,
how long has your school been open?
so we just complete 2 months now.
Yeah.
Yes. So like we were for 2 months open. We decided to open this gym, and everything kind of like fell into place together.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of good people behind me that helped me take this decision. It was like really
Yeah.
hard. Like it's a big responsibility. Like
Yeah.
I've been around. Like I've been in other gyms. I see how the professors get overwhelmed with teaching, with making sure all the
Right.
students are learning, make sure the parents are happy. Like you have
So
your
so
little
you knew
community.
what you were getting yourself into. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew it was like a lot on my back, but I've been around. So like I started teaching when I was 14 to 15 years old. I was a green belt. So like
Mm-hmm.
so back in Brazil, my professor had this class that was only for people that go to college. So they would go to college all day, and then they would get off like 10:30 p.m. So 11:30 p.m. we had a jiu-jitsu class. And my professor was like,
11:30
bro,
p.m.?
PM, yes. So
That's crazy.
we would call this the corujão. Corujão means like, so like those streamers when they stay all night playing video games.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what the meaning behind corujão. So like that was the name of the class because it was super late. We didn't finish the class like
Whoa.
12:31 a.m. And I
Wait,
had
so
the
wait, wait,
school.
wait. So is that only for you guys? Does that currently exist in Brazil, like in other schools? Like I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, my
cool.
city, some school has, because my city has this big college that called Exalc. It's a big college. They are more like for farms and like this type of stuff. So they study a lot. That's like a federal school. So they
Uh-huh.
study a lot. So they be out they studying. So they go to classes in the morning, class in the afternoon, and some people
Uh-huh.
has classes at night. And as a lot of people that she want to train jiu-jitsu, so they would go train at night, and then like their first class was like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. So they would like sleep in and go to school. So I would teach
Uh-huh.
that class. I was like 14, 15 years old,
Wow.
and I would
Okay.
teach that class because I was like one of the only ones on my gym that would compete like every single tournament. So a lot of
Yeah.
people like looked up to me, and my professor was like, "Hey, that's a way for you to make more money, and you can pay for your tournaments, when you
Yeah.
have to, and it's good for you." So I started teaching that class. So I would get home like 1 a.m., 1:30,
What?
and I would have to go to school in the morning, like 7:45. I had to be in school. So
You
yeah.
gotta do that with your school. Have like a class like that.
I don't know if I'm built like that anymore.
Yeah,
When you're
that
14,
wouldn't fly around
yeah,
here.
when you 14, 15, you
Yeah.
like, like you can go sleep like 3 a.m., wake up 6 a.m. and go on with your day. Now it's
Yeah.
hard, like I know I
No.
have a little daughter. Sometimes like she's sick and she's be up all night, and I wake up on the next day. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
So
that's
did
how I
you,
start teaching.
yeah, but so my question is, have you always had this dream of opening up a school?
Yes.
Or you did. So I know that you
Yeah.
wanted to be a fighter, but did you have that dream of also being like, an owner of a
Faster.
school?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a
Yeah,
professor?
that was
Yeah.
a dream on the back of my head. Always was a dream. So like for me, my hero growing up was my professor. Like I started training,
Yeah.
I was like 8, 9 years old. I was a little
Yeah.
boy. I would see my professor competing and, like doing amazing and like see my friends. So my professor was my hero. Like whatever he would tell me, I would do it. Like he was the
Right.
one who taught me like a lot of things, like
Yeah.
how to be a man, how to treat a
Yeah.
woman right. Like he
Yeah.
was like my hero. So like growing up, I always wanted to be like him. Someone would ask me like, hey, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I want to be like my professor. You know
Love
what I mean?
it.
I know there's a lot of
Yeah.
memes now, like people post on TikTok, like, my professor is everything. And that's how it is for many of
Yeah.
us Brazilians. Like, our professors are master. Like, I would call a professor master. I would not call him
Yeah.
professor. Many of us would call him master because he was like the whole, like model for us and like what we wanted to do. So I grew up, I wanted to be like him, but I had my dreams. So I was like, I
Right.
want to like compete as much as I can, find MMA once the right time. And then like once I'm older, I want to have a kid and I want to have my gym. And that was kind of like the back end. And then kind of like went first, my daughter, the gym.
Yeah.
And now I need to like fight for my dreams, which is cool because, I know I'm doing for my family and for my gym,
Right.
but it kind of like flip, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I always dream, like having a gym and like being the person that I am today.
Love it.
It's incredible because we have a
Love
little
it.
community, right? Like we
Yeah.
need to make sure like everybody's happy, even
Yeah.
if you're not happy, you're not good, you're sick, or you didn't sleep well last night. It's not your student's fault. Like they're here to have a great class, to
Yeah.
enjoy, to have a good time, to forget about their regular day jobs, to forget about their problems at home.
Right.
So you need to make their day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
for
I love
sure.
that part too. I love that part too because you know me, like you can hear, I like to talk. I talk a lot. So when I have
Yeah.
my students, and they need a little talk, I'm there.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we know that you're an active competitor. You've done it pretty much all your life. So, what are your thoughts about competition? And do you think it's for everyone?
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone, but I think everyone should compete at least once. I know that was like one of the questions that we were talking
Yeah.
about, but I think everybody should compete once, at least once. Because over here, like at the gym, sometimes your friend, he knows you're a little bit older, man, and or he knows like you're a little bit, you don't have that much strength like him, so you're gonna go a little bit easier on you. And then
Yeah.
sometimes that move that works every time on everybody, when you go to a tournament, that doesn't gonna work, and you're gonna
Right.
know why it's not working. Maybe you're not controlling the hip. Maybe you don't have the right grip. Maybe you're not loading him up the right way. Like these little details that when you're going like full 100%, it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're drilling, you're going, or you fighting, you're going 85, you're going 80. You know what I mean? It works. But if the guy's going 100%, he's not want to get swept or not want to get passed, it's not going to happen. So
Right.
if you compete, you're gonna understand why that didn't work. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's kind of like what I tell them, but I don't put a pressure because I see before when like professors put a pressure on the students to compete, they compete and then they get beat really bad and then they never want to compete again, or they even never
Or
want to
they
train
quit.
jiu-jitsu again.
Yeah.
It happens. Like I saw it
Yeah.
happen multiple times. So I take, like I let them take their time. Like I say, hey, 6 months as this tournament. How about that? You know what I mean? Trying to
Yeah.
like put
Yeah.
it on their brain, the idea of competing. And sometimes they're gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And then 1 month before the tournament, they don't gonna show up to train anymore
Yeah.
because they
Right.
don't know how to tell you, like, hey, professor, I don't wanna do it. I don't feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
see that
Right.
I have a student here that he's amazing. He's really good. Like he's really good. I know he would be amazing. But when gets close to the tournament, he stops showing up to class because he knows.
Really?
Yeah, because he knows I'm gonna tell him, hey, bro, you gotta compete. Because he don't want to compete. He don't want to compete. He want to train. He loves training jiu-jitsu. He loves
But
going
he so
hard, but
he
he don't want to
so he's
compete.
really good at the training, but when it comes to competition, he like shies away from it.
Yeah, he
So he's
just
good
don't
in
want to do it.
class, but yeah, that's
Amazing.
crazy.
Amazing. Like I need to pay attention when I'm training with him. Otherwise, he end up on my back or gonna, you know what I mean? He's really
Yeah.
good, but he just don't
That's
like to compete because I feel like some people cannot fight those battles in your mind. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, oh,
right.
what if he's really strong? What if I cannot do this position? What
Yeah.
if, like when you have that if in your brain and you cannot beat
Yeah.
that, that's the
So
problem.
so that's
So
a good question. So how do you handle that with your students? Because jujitsu and like competition is a mindset game. So like how do you coach your students for competition? Like is there
yeah, I
anything that
try.
you tell them?
I try to make comfortable. I try to make them feel comfortable about it. I was like, hey, you're gonna go there. It's just a train, but you're gonna have a referee that's gonna be giving the points and gonna have a bunch of people screaming. but it's just a train. Like if you can
Yeah.
zone out and just like pay attention what are you doing, don't care about the time. Like I'm gonna tell you the time. I'm gonna be there with you. I'm gonna scream you the time. If you need to make points, I'll be there. But just think it's like you training, like don't make the other guy too big because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
like in our head we make the other person like way too
Right.
big, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not that even that strong and you think like, oh, he's so strong, or he's
Yeah.
not even that fast and you think he's really fast.
Right.
So when you pass that barrier, that's when like you start competing better. That was even for me, like on the beginning when I was like a kid, I feel like to like 13, 14. I would win like most of the tournaments
Mm-hmm.
because didn't had a lot of kids on that same age, that same bracket, the same belt that was really good like me, or you should take really serious like competing and training and
Yeah.
was easy. And then when I start getting 14, 15, you start meeting all the other kids just like you that like to compete and like to be. And then you
Right.
see him, I would see them training or I would see their videos and I'd be like, oh my God, he's so good on like on that spotter bar. His grip is amazing, blah blah.
Yeah.
And then I would kind of like lose for myself. And then I would compete and I would feel him. I was like, he's not how I thought. He's not that strong. That's not
Right.
impossible, like he's just like a human, just like me. But sometimes
Right.
like why I feel like that's what happened with the most of the students or like the competitors,
Yeah.
make the other person way too good. Or
Yeah.
our own mentality.
Right.
And that's
Right.
where I try to go when I'm talking to a student. I try to be that. But like he's not that strong, he's not that big, you're bigger, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or try to like, hey, we've been doing this move, works on me, works on your friend that's
Yeah.
way bigger than you. In the
I
tournament gonna be
think
the same thing.
I think your mind defaults to that too. Like it doesn't matter how many times you compete because I feel like it's always in the back of your mind like, oh, he or she may be better than me. So
Yeah,
it's something that you constantly have to tell yourself like, no, no, no. It's a mindset thing, right?
yeah.
So
And-
totally, totally.
Yeah, and go back to survival too, right?
Yeah.
Because like, or even our body is all about survival, right? Like when you
Mm-hmm.
cutting weight, you're not eating that much, your body just gonna like save that fat that you have because your
Yeah.
body gonna think that you're dying or
Yeah.
like you need food. So the same thing, like even like some students, I'm sure you saw that some students they're not good at all in training. But when
Yeah.
they go to compete, they become a
Yeah.
lion, right?
Right.
Right? That's a survival thing because like you can see like that
Yeah.
guy, he get on the mats, he's like, bro, I need to survive. This guy wanna take my hat off. And
Yeah.
then you kind of like turn on that,
Isn't that
that
so
flip,
funny? It's really interesting, right?
right?
Yeah. I've
And I feel
seen
like
it. I've
every
seen both
gym,
ways.
yeah, every gym has that. Like
Yeah.
here we have one. I'm sure your gym has
Yeah.
there. I'm sure everybody's gym
Yeah.
has someone like that.
Yeah.
Alliance in competition and training cannot
Yeah.
train good, or vice versa. We have some guys that they're amazing training, but when they get to compete, they become a little cat. Like they can't
Yeah.
fight. Right?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Right.
It's fun. So I
Right.
feel like kids are like that. Kids they turn on a lot more in tournaments than adults,
You think
right?
so?
I
Yeah.
think so. I really
Uh-huh.
think so. Because kids like feel like it's automatic. We put the kids there to compete, they just go. Like they just go hard.
Do they understand though? Like I feel like I'm not a parent, so like I'm just trying to think like or an instructor, but I'm like do they understand that they have to turn up for competition? Like, do they understand that it's a competition and you have to try to beat them? Is what I'm asking. Or is it more like fun to them? They don't really care. They just show up.
But yeah, I feel like that's both, right? I feel like
Both.
some
Yeah.
kids they don't care. They just go. They're like, hey, I wanna
Yeah.
win. I need to get on my best position on the side control and then just go till they get to the side control.
Yeah.
And then I feel like some kids probably think like, hey,
It doesn't
like
matter. It's fun. Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's the same thing like kids. You can see with kids. Like I had one of our kids. He used to compete, and he went to like 4 tournaments, and like he would not be able to fight. He would get scared. He would start crying before
Yeah.
getting to the mats.
Oh,
Start walking. He was
yeah.
crying. And then like I'm just working that mentality, talking, hey, it's a training, you know what I mean? Like the other kids is just a kid just like you. And then his last tournament, he just
He
turned
did
that
good.
clip. Turned that clip. He took gold. He went, he did like three
Nice.
fights, he beat everybody and took gold. And
Love
now
it.
it's yeah, and then he go back, he's like, I wanna go again. When's the next one? You know, it kind of
Love
like turn
it.
on that little click.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like for adults. So I try balance. I feel like I see a lot more. I love, like I would say, I like teach more kids than adults
Yeah.
because kids like is way more fun. You know what I mean? Like I love teaching adults, but adults like the serious jiu-jitsu, right? Hey, make that grip. Don't make that grip inside. You know you cannot make that grip. Look the
Yeah.
underhook. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
kids just fun. Like, come on,
Yeah.
like table position. You just invent
Right.
some names for some. You know, it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, it changed my day.
Right.
Like, I love
Right.
teaching kids. Once they cross the door and say, "Hey, coach, how you doing?
Yeah.
Perfect trick." It's so cool. It's so cool. I love it. I
Love
love it.
it. Do you have any requirements for your students in order to compete?
Just wanted to compete.
Just
I
one.
know,
Okay.
like, yeah, I know a lot of gyms. You need to have so much stripes, or you need to know so much positions. You need to be training for so much, so long. I don't know. Like I had kids that been training for 1 month and they went to compete and they won. You know, I had kids that been
Oh,
training for 1 month, went to compete, got destroyed, came
yeah.
back. Like I want to do it again and got really good and just training and
Nice.
competing. So I feel like if they want to compete, they come to me, hey coach, I want to do this next tournament. I don't care if they're training for 1 week. If they want to compete, they go and compete.
Really?
Yeah, it's fun.
Nice.
Competition is
Okay.
so fun. It's just like, have a coach, your coach is screaming. He's out his lungs out. Your mom is outside screaming for
Yeah.
you. You get a cool medal after. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Some kids, like the parents, they send pictures like, oh, he's lap with his medal. You know what I mean? Like, kids sleep with their medals.
Aw.
It's so important for them, even for
Yeah.
adults. They say, no, it's just a competition. But they like it. When someone
Yeah.
come, hey, how was your tournament? You can see like popping that chest out. Yeah, I did 2 fights. Unfortunately, I lost the second fight. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fun. And you're doing for yourself.
Right.
That's other thing that I try to tell them. But sometimes, like, I had kids come to me, hey, coach, I'm sorry. It's like, you don't have to say sorry to me that you lost or you didn't do good. You're doing it for yourself. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not competing at words, IBJJF words, and don't gonna change your life, because if you win awards, that you're gonna change your life.
Right.
But if you win, like, like a IBJJF Open, it's not gonna change your life. It's not
Right.
gonna change nothing in your life. You're just gonna get an extra medal and you're gonna get some experience. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like you're doing for yourself more than for your
Right.
coach or for your mom or for your girlfriend. You're doing for yourself.
Right.
So you feel better by yourself. You're
Right.
doing that because you like to compete, and then maybe if you want a gold medal, you're gonna sleep a little happier. You know what I mean? So like I don't know. I feel like
Right.
when you fight, it's more for yourself. Nobody cares.
No one
Like
cares.
your
Right.
friend or your mom, if you win or lose, you're gonna come and love you the same way, or
Right.
your friends gonna be she'll be your friends. Of course, if you win one tournament or other, you might get some new friends, but they're not might be your real friends. If
Yeah.
you lose, they're not there. You know what I mean? So like it's for yourself. So I
Right.
try to
Right.
put it down their head too, like you doing that for you. Not it's not for me, it's not for nobody else. And same thing for me. When I compete for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not competing for nobody, so people think that I'm cool, think that I'm really good. I don't care. Like
Right.
if I win or lose, it's just like experience that I learn, and I might learn something from it, and life goes on. You know what I
Right.
mean? We just got one life, so
Exactly.
we gotta enjoy, do the things that we enjoy. Like be happy, have good friends around, have your family around, and the rest, what we can do about it. You know what I mean? We cannot
Absolutely.
change how people think about you.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
offer any competition classes, or do you like have your classes all the same? Like how do you run your classes?
So right now we just opened the gym, so we're
Yeah.
not there yet. So,
Okay.
but before, when I used to teach other gyms, I used to do that. I used to
Mm-hmm.
separate the classes: competition class,
Yeah.
advanced class, beginner class. I would have that, but right now we cannot do that. So, like the way I do is who gonna compete, they usually like let me know. So I try to focus a little bit more on them, like on the what they wanna do to the competition, and I
Yeah.
change the form of the class too. So I feel like even like the beginners or the regular guy that's just jiu-jitsu for Robbie, he will learn and will get a lot from a competition class too. So I try do like I do a regular class. So on Mondays we do points training, So we work more punch training to start the week good. I start with the hard train. So we do point training and then rounds
Mm-hmm.
after. And then Tuesday we go over. I kind of like see why everybody was having, the mistakes on the points. Tuesday we go over the points. We go over like what we're doing wrong on the points or when we want to sweep or when we want to score. And then
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday we go back to competition train again. It'll be more like positional. We start straight on the position and then we go from there and then we switch. And then Thursday, we go back to that same thing, work on the details, work on the things that we're doing wrong. And then
Nice.
Friday,
So
we
so you
finish the
really
week
go
off.
over the points
Oh,
system.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
weight classes and stuff? Like weight
So,
classes, weight cutting.
yeah, so it all depends. I feel like it depends a lot. If he's like a teenager, like a 16 years old, or like a 18-year-old man at 25, if they are like five, so like let's see, they're gonna fight 168 lightweight division. If they are like 172, 170, I would tell them to cut it to 168 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are too high, like 168 and they weigh like 176, I would not
Yeah.
tell them to cut it. I would tell them to just, try stay on that way, get in their cardio and compete. And it all depends too. Like it's a white belt, it's a blue belt, it's a purple
Right.
belt. It all depends. I feel like you gotta have a balance. You cannot push everybody the same way.
Right.
First tournament, I usually don't tell them to cut weight because I don't want them worrying about making weight, about not eating, about running, and forget about the jiu-jitsu. I feel like the jiu-jitsu is the most
Right.
important. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
cutting weight and getting on that way should be second, and then
Right.
fighting should be first. So if they're the first tournament, I usually don't tell them to cut. Only if they're really close, like 168, they're like 170, you can cut
Right.
4 or 5 pounds. It's easy. So like that's how I go. 10 pounds, maybe not 5 pounds. I would like them to cut weight. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how we go. I kind of like see each one a little bit different. It go age, belt, how long they've been trained, how many times they compete, their first tournament, the second tournament. It all
Yeah.
depends. I feel like it's hard to say like everybody should cut away or don't
Right.
cut away at all.
Right.
It's really hard. Everybody
Yeah.
got different body types. It's kind of hard to say it like that. But I go
Right.
like each person by person. That's how I
Okay.
see it, I think.
And so if you can give one piece of advice to somebody that's going to compete for the very first time, what would you tell them?
Have fun. I would say
Have
like have
fun.
fun. Yeah. Go
Mm-hmm.
enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Enjoy every stage. Start the stage of like going to bed the night before. That's kind of hard. I remember like my first tournaments, like I would go to sleep super late, like thinking about the competition.
Yeah.
Enjoy that part. That's cool. Having the ancients in your belly, those
Yeah.
butterflies. It's cool. Enjoy like going to the tournament, wake up in early, having a nice breakfast, going to the tournament,
Yeah.
making the way, walking, like enjoy every part. You know what I mean? Like if you're too nervous, put on music that make you feel better about yourself. Like music for me is a lot. Like when I go to compete, you're always gonna see me with my little headphones. And I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of people is the same. So that help you to calm down. So I would say have fun, enjoy yourself, and like just think that you're doing that for yourself, and
Right.
and compete. That's pretty
Yeah.
much it. It's hard to say it because it's not everybody that likes to compete. Some people
Yeah.
like to compete,
Yeah.
don't like to compete, but like to compete.
Yeah.
Like when like you there on the mats fighting, but don't like all that before making weight, going to sleep. So it's like it's a balance. You need to
Mm-hmm.
find your balance. I feel like find your balance, find what are you good at, focus on it, have your plan A, B, C,
Yeah.
and do it. Because if
Love
you already
that.
sign up to a tournament, you're already there. Just
Love
go.
it.
Yeah.
All right. So, how has your experience been with the Arizona Jiu-Jitsu League? Hopefully good, but you can let us know. It's up to you. So, is it good or is it bad? Hopefully good.
No, it's good. It's
Okay.
good. I like it. I like it.
Okay.
If I have like AZBJJL and have another tournament on the same day, I probably go to
Yeah.
the AZBJJL
All
because I
right.
like how like they try to like follow IBJJF, make like the tournament very organized and like the head of the referees. They're really good with the coaches.
Yeah.
I see he's talking with the coaches. He talks sometimes with the parents when they need, when the parents are very, parents get
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed in tournaments, and
Oh
we know
yeah.
how it is. Yeah. So like I see them, he's talking to them, and Gustavo is like a great guy too, like I
Yeah.
see helping around. So I feel like overall it's a really good tournament. You know, like they found a bigger place now to have the tournament, so it's like it's even better now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like in 2018, 2019, you should be on that college on
Yeah.
that
Oh
little.
man, so you've been supporting for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. So since I
Cool.
moved to Phoenix, to Arizona, since 2018, I feel like 2018 was the first tournament going there, and I like it. You know, like you know who is competing, you know where they're
Yeah.
competing. His Move Comp is a really good website. I like it. So I feel like they do a really good tournament. Really good
Nice.
tournament. I'm not nobody to talk, bad about
Yeah.
any
Well, that's
organization
good
like
to
that,
hear.
but I
Yeah.
know like as a lot of organizations do, they don't do even close to that. So like they're on the
Yeah.
right path for sure.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. That's really good to hear.
No, it's
Awesome.
good.
Well,
It's good.
thank you so much for sharing everything. And where can people find you on social media?
So you guys can look up our gym, Souza Grappling Co.
Yeah.
Or you guys can go to our website, souzagrappling.com. Or you guys can find us in Carefree 7509 East Cave Creek Road, Suite 105.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much, Gabriel, for your time. And it was very nice getting to know you. And we look forward to seeing you at the events.
Awesome. Thank you for the
All
opportunity. It was nice
right.
talking to
Thank
you. Have a
you.
good day.
You too.